with Matt, and it should be just fine that he will be here in plenty of time before I have to leave, if I have to leave before we're done. So hopefully that'll work out. And I saw the emails with Jim. I'm psyched that Jim is joining us despite being on vacation. That gives us a little flexibility. Ed, I want you to do the whole meeting from right where you just were.
Oh.
Just keep it right there.
Right there? I was turning on the light. It's a light my grandfather made.
Your grandpa made that.
Yeah, that's minor.
Well, that's cool.
Come here sometime and I will show you a fraction of his production. I wish I had a tenth of his talent.
My grandfather helped make the atom bomb. So there you go.
Well, now if we're going to put on our big boy bragging pants.
Through the chair, you're live on HCAM TV.
You might hold it then, Ed. Hold whatever you're about to brag about.
Oh, no, it's okay. My many greats back grandfather, anglicized name John Jacob Mickley, was the guy who in 1777 smuggled the Liberty Bell out of Philadelphia under the nose of the British on a cart with one of his kids and took it to its resting spot in Allentown, Pennsylvania, in the basement of the Zion Reformed Church. And he covered it up with what became the Universal American cover-up, which I shall not mention here on camera, but you can ask me about it later.
Okay. How are we? Thank you, Ed. Thank you for refraining when appropriate. How are we doing with numbers here? Were you paying attention, Judy?
Yeah, I still haven't seen Janine or Jim come in, so not quite at quorum yet.
All right. I see some familiar names out there in the crowd.
So I can come up with another family lore story.
Just be your own editor.
This would be an uncle.
Okay.
Not a direct line. He was on all three of Captain Cook's voyages. He was on the Bounty. He made the 2000 open boat voyage with Captain Bligh. And you can read his testimony on the British Navy website.
Look at you. My goodness.
All right, we do have quorum with Janine here.
Okay, great. So hopefully Jim will join us soon, but we will get started if we have a quorum. Thank you, Judy. My name is Ted Barker Hook. I am the co-vice chair of the Conservation Commission, and I will be leading the meeting, at least most of the meeting, if not all. We'll start with the script. This is the 29th day of April, 2025, open meeting of the Hopkinton Conservation Commission being conducted remotely consistent with an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. The new law authorizes all members of a public body to continue participating in the meetings remotely. The open meeting law's requirement that a quorum of the body and chair be physically present at the meeting location remains suspended. For this meeting, the Hopkinton Conservation Commission is convening by video conference via the Zoom app, as posted on the town's web meeting calendar and the Conservation Commission agenda identifying how the public may join. Additionally, the meeting may also be broadcast by HCAM through one or many of its channels or platforms. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that others may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. I'll just add to the script, and please remain muted until you're called on if you're a member of the public or an applicant. Commission members, just be judicious with the mute button. Supporting materials that have been provided to members of the commission for this meeting are available on the town's website. This meeting will feature public comment. After commission members and staff have discussed each project application on the agenda, the chair will open the discussion to public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak are asked to identify their name and address. 3 minutes will be afforded for each public comment. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted via roll call of the members. I will now confirm which commission members are present with me, Ted Barker Hook. Ed Harrow?
Present.
Janine LeBlanc?
Present.
Heather Burton?
Present.
And is Jim Cirillo here yet? No. And Matt should be joining us later, and we will not see Melissa tonight. I will now confirm staff are present. Judy?
Present.
Anna Rogers?
Present.
And Joe Orzel of LE Environmental.
Present.
Great. With that, we can move into the agenda. It is worth noting that in the continued hearings, item number 7, 47 Oakhurst Road, has been continued per the applicant's request until May 13th, 2025. If anybody is here for that hearing, you are certainly welcome to stay on, but we will not be discussing that hearing tonight. It is 5 minutes after 7, so we'll start with the work session items for a little bit. We have a document for review to open up. It is the 10 Exchange Street enforcement order. Judy, do you want to fill us in on what you've got there?
Sure, through the chair. So we did hear from the property owner at 10 Exchange Street. Just a reminder, this was the violation we had back in January of the unpermitted tree removal, that they do have a wetland delineation scheduled for early May. So we wrote up an enforcement order to kind of get it in writing that we are going to be looking for plans after the delineation is completed. So first page is just explaining the violation. Second page checked off cease and desist additional activities affecting the buffer zone and resource areas, requesting that a restoration plan be filed with the commission. I said May 21st to give us time prior to the June 3rd commission meeting to review the plans. And then a little bit of a description on what we're looking for and other expectations. So submit to the Conservation Office a site plan containing the delineation, locations of cut trees and vegetation, and a restoration plan or a preliminary planting plan is what we've been told they're preparing by May 21st, with the property owner to be attending the commission's June 3rd meeting to discuss the site plan, restoration plan, and any next steps that the commission wants to pursue at that point. Did include if we would like Joe to review any of the plans, that those consultant fees would be paid by the property owner. And that's basically what I have in here. Space for signatures, and then standard conditions for enforcement orders. So commission to discuss. Let me know if you have any questions or feedback. I'm happy to issue as is, or if you have any adjustments you'd like to make.
Awesome. I, for myself, looked over it. I didn't see anything that jumped out to me, but commission members, did anybody see anything that needs a revision and edit, anything? That looks like a no. I would love a motion to issue the enforcement order and allow Judy or Anna to do our signatures.
So moved.
Second.
And we will do a roll call vote. Is Jim Cirillo here yet? Oh, that's sometimes Jim noise. Is that Jim? Anyway, Ed.
Yes.
Hi. Janine.
Aye.
Heather.
Aye.
Ted Barker Hook is an aye. Jim, are you here? No, but that's 4 ayes, so it's unanimous. And I think we can move on. We will stay with the work session items. Next up, draft minutes. We have none for review. So let's talk a bit about 37 Oakhurst Road, Holmes. Violation discussion continued. Is Mr. Holmes here? No. Judy, would you share with us what we got, and then we can discuss what our next steps might be?
Sure. So at the commission's April 8th meeting, you had voted to issue an enforcement order requesting sketch plans from the homeowner showing conditions prior to the work done in March and conditions after that unpermitted work was done. We did receive some sketch plans here from the homeowner. So this is what he was indicating as the prior conditions.
Oh, okay.
We've got, oh, I think we do have David on the line. I'm just going to run through what you showed me. And if you'd like to add anything, please feel free.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm not very well versed at Zoom sometimes, so
no worries.
My apologies.
Great, thank you. So Judy,
right.
why don't you wrap up and then I'll come to you.
All right. So just to orient you, we have the lake here at the top. This is the prior conditions. There was a dock as reported by the homeowner. And the X's here represent the original retaining wall. And on the second page, we have the work that was done in March. So that dock had been removed. What looks to be the new retaining wall indicated by the slashes. And then we have boulders here on the side to stabilize the corner is the note here. Some things that I did see that are missing are just the hardscape patio and the dock activities, which while also unpermitted may have occurred at a different time as the March work. So those are just a few things to note. And David, if you'd like to add anything to my interpretation of your sketch, please feel free.
No, not at this time. Thank you. Apologize for the handwritten mess, but hopefully you guys can read it.
Great, thank you. So I thank you for the handwritten mess. It's better than what we had before. I was looking at it, and I think that you've done a fine enough job showing us where the wall is. Could you show me the other page again, please, Judy? Thank you. And where the dock is. And so that's all great. My initial reaction is this project is bigger than just the wall. As Judy mentioned, we do have the patio that's on the other side of the wall that was not originally permitted, which is within our jurisdiction. I don't see anything in your plan about the semi-repaired stretch that goes alongside the property or toward the lake. I did see that you filled it in with some gravel or cinder or something like that. I don't know if that is the permanent plan or if that is a temporary to stabilize things, but there's nothing in these drawings that help me understand that. And I would say additionally, what I'd love to see on these drawings, and maybe Judy, you have it, there's that. But we, as we mentioned at our last meeting, when we've dealt with applications along Lake Maspinock, we're holding applicants to a standard of protecting the waterfront with plantings. And I think Judy might have at her fingertips the information that we've shared with a lot of homeowners. So what I'd like to see first is a plan that is more detailed and all-encompassing of the work that has been done and that needs to continue to be done. And then before I open it up to the commission, a couple other things that I happen to see. I'm curious, I don't think that there's any description of how the wall was finished, what materials were used. I was assured that the tarred cinder blocks were removed, but what materials are holding the new stones in place? What is the buffer between the stones and the cinder block wall? I would love to know more about that. And then finally, it looks like from the photos, and that's a perfect photo for it, we still have straw wattle issues. That straw wattle right there is not staked down. And pretty clearly, if you can cursor over where there's debris right there, which is not being protected with erosion controls at all in that current situation. So I like that we're making progress is my first thought, but I think that better plans and a little bit more erosion control are probably called for. Would you like to respond to any of that before I open to the commission?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Would be happy to stake down the wattle there. And also, that's all been seeded now. that slope on the other side from the previous photo that has been strawed and seeded in straw on there as well. The material that was used was natural stone veneer to reinforce the cinder block wall behind it. So that when the lake waves and everything hit it, the joints, from the cinder block won't deteriorate. So, you guys allowed me permission to go ahead with that work. So before the water rose, fortunately, we got there just in time to do that. And again, and prior to that, in front of that stone wall that you see now was an old rotted dock, and that still had remaining trash in it from the previous owner. And you would see from previous photos where the seepage occurred that caused the patio, if you're looking at that photo to the right, to cave in, and also caused sinkholes in front of the wall between where those gentlemen are standing and the existing patio. So before, to the far left was a old jet ski ramp that went into the lake at least 8 feet, and that was rotted as well. If I don't know if you guys were able to pull up some old photos or checked out the old files previous to my ownership, but the previous owner buried incredible amount of trash on this property, and it was hence removed, and this is what kind of the last, I guess, phase of it, because it did end up failing this winter time. So it was really just a kind of what I thought was an emergency repair and replace, because I wanted to get there but fix it before the lake water rose. Otherwise, it would have been a really quite a bad situation going forward for erosion and seepage and everything else. So again, I apologize not knowing that I needed to come before you, and also apologize for what I feel honestly is a reckless behavior of the landscapers that I hired that did the work, and they were like drawing water from the lake and things like that. So things that they shouldn't have done. Everything I've done to repair this wall, I never encroached, never changed the elevations. I took away all that trash that was underneath that dock, the dock itself that is rotted, the ramp past that dock you're looking at. And then I replaced that back corner with natural stone to bring that back to kind of a more natural flow and a grade. I guess that's what I need to add. I guess if there are any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Yeah, let me just, 2 things, but again, before I go to the commission. I just remembered an item from our last meeting when you were talking, and there was removal of boulders from the lake. I mean, boulders, rocks from the lake. Have those been found and replaced?
Yeah, they were never removed. They were moved so that I could use them to shore up that corner. That was I guess my original plan, because they were, I guess, from the previous owner. I guess I don't know how long ago when he put that ramp in, he moved them into the water. So I've used what I naturally could to shore up that corner and bring that back so it even matches my neighbor's yard.
So I'm confused. The boulders were not moved by you. They were moved by the previous owner?
Well, way back. But I did have him. I had the landscapers use the existing boulders that were right nearby that ramp to shore up that corner.
Okay. My second question then, I guess maybe, Joe, are you here? Joe Rozelle?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Oh, great. So I have two questions for you. Or maybe the first is for Judy. Did you observe the site? Because I was under the impression that it looked like the boulders were freshly moved, that you could see the indentations in the lake bed where the boulders were.
Through the chair, yes. I think maybe the correct interpretation is that the boulders were moved, but not necessarily removed from the lake bed. So, I mean, it did look like there were fresh holes, but I don't think they were fully taken out of the lake bed. I think they were placed on the end of the wall to stabilize, as David said. So, yes, moved and altered, but I don't think they were taken from the lake.
Are they still
You
being
see old
used for
golf balls in the
stabilization?
lake.
Are they still being used for stabilization, or have they served that purpose?
They're still being used current. I believe they're cut. I wasn't there when they did, but I believe they used some of them that were close to the ramp for stabilization.
Okay.
Instead of adding outside boulders from a different source, I guess the rocks that were right nearby where that ramp was were
Okay.
used. I believe I can double check with the landscapers on this issue, but I'm sure some of them were used for that corner to stabilize that corner.
Okay. Joe, my other question was, I know nothing about what the proper materials are if you are putting a stone wall up against the lake bed. Did you hear Mr. Holmes's explanation, and did it fit with what you think is proper?
Yeah, I didn't have any major issues jump out with this description. I guess the one question I would have is where the stone facing that was put on, how is that applied? Is that a mortar that was just applied to the cinder blocks, or how was that attached?
It was with a mortar, to my knowledge. Yes.
Yeah, I don't have any major issues with that, but I don't know that necessarily if that's something that I would have the expertise to comment on as far as structural design of that.
Okay. All right, thanks. Are there members of the commission that have questions or observations? That looks like a no.
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Sure, Ed.
I just have a simple question. The height of the wall.
Yes, sir.
Is it what is the height, or?
Oh, I don't know. I'm guessing 2.5 to 3 feet. The elevation was never changed from the old. I'd say let's say 3 feet. I don't know exactly, but it was never altered in any way.
Anything else from the commission?
Just to say hello, I apologize for being a little bit late.
Oh, don't apologize. We're happy you're here. How's North Carolina?
It's very windy, but it's been in the 80s, so that's pretty good.
Mr. Holmes, did you install the patio that we're seeing the edge of, or was that there underneath all the garbage when you bought the property?
No, that was a part. There was a patio there. It was sinking at the time with the old dock, and so we replaced it with new patio stone.
Okay.
It had like an old red brick pattern that he also used for his basement floor, because his floor, he never put French drains in, so he just puts old stone, patio stone down in his basement at the time.
He's clearly a gem.
Yeah,
Oh.
2 dumpsters of trash off the lake. I mean,
Right.
I mean the town. You guys, I'm sure if you open up the old file, you will see that. Plus, I sent you a bunch of pictures of
And again, we
traffic have
appreciate
removed,
all
so-
of the cleanup you did. Thank you for making all of that better than it was left by the last person. Nonetheless, we still have a lot of activity that we have to deal with, and you're not quite done with your project. So I wonder, commission members, it feels to me like I'd recommend an NOI plan, given the work within, right on the lakefront, that includes so many of the things that the sketch doesn't have, so that we can button this up and let Mr. Holmes finish the project. I would love to see a plan that details the wall work that I am sure we would have approved very quickly had you been able to come to us. We get the idea that it was an emergency, but I believe we can't allow this amount of work without documentation and approval to become the norm. So what I think, what I would like to see, but I'd like to hear from commission members if they think I'm off base, is an after the fact NOI filing, so that we can take a look at all of this, so that we can talk about plantings along the lakefront, so that we can try to further protect the water. The lawn restoration by where the construction vehicles went down, the patio that was built a while ago or repaired a while ago. I think all of that needs to be documented for us to be able to, as I look, I don't think there's anything you did that doesn't make sense, but we still need to go through the process to allow these things.
Well, I'd be happy to apply, to do plantings along where you see the water there.
Yeah.
To capture any possible runoffs from the yard itself, and then anything else you guys would recommend. Would be, happy to work with you going forward.
I was going to say there are commission members that have served longer than I, and I just want to make sure that they don't disagree vehemently with me.
No, I agree. That's what I would have anticipated as the next steps in this process, Ted.
Okay. Anyone else? So I think, Mr. Holmes, your next step is to talk with Judy and Anna if you need some direction on how to file an NOI and the kind of things that we'd be looking for. I think that's your best next step so that we can get things buttoned up.
Okay, very good.
Judy, is there anything I'm missing?
No, I'll just come to our next meeting with a revised enforcement order, confirming that the commission wants to see an amended NOI filed. And I'll come up with what feels like a reasonable date for when we might want to see that. But no, I don't think you're missing anything.
Great. And in the very short run, Mr. Holmes, if you could just take care of the sediment control there along the wall, and make that just a little bit more effective.
Oh, absolutely. Be happy to. I'm glad you pointing that out. I didn't see that myself. So, and I'll probably run it up along the side too, the left side as well.
Perfect. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, then also that slope going down, I have in the past put some down like a U shape, down at the very base to capture way down to the right, kind of to capture any during a really heavy rain. Just to capture any sunlight that goes down that way too. So we have it on the left side as you see it, but I think right down at the very bottom, I would like to put some more down there because after pulling out so much out of that property, he buried the house 2 feet deep above the sills with trash. I mean, he was a very sick individual. So so you're clearly making it get everything back to normal grade. So I know there's certain trouble areas, and that would be one.
You are clearly making it look more attractive. We just want to make sure that we do it with all proper documentation and approvals.
I hear you. Oh.
All right. Thank you very much. And we'll see you down the road, I suppose.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.
All right. We're going to move on to new hearings. We have 3 new hearings tonight. And which means I've got to read some paperwork. Let me see if I can find the first one. Mary, what is that? Oh, it's this one. Okay. This one has a lot of property locations, so bear with me, everybody. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 29th, 2025 at 7 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in an amended notice of intent filed by the town of Hopkinton for changes at the intermittent stream crossing to the proposed school entrance driveway. Location, 0 Hayden Row, Assessors Map U23, Block 33, Lot 0. 0 Hayden Row, Assessors Map U23, Block 35, Lot A. 129 Hayden Row, Assessors Map U23, Block 28, Lot 0. 147 Hayden Row, Assessors Map U23, Block 32, Lot 0. LTC Myrtle Avenue? What's LTC? Help me with what that means.
I think it refers to lot, but it's just how the assessors have it.
Oh, LT is for lot. Lot C, Myrtle Avenue, thank you. Lot C, Myrtle Avenue, Assessors Map U23, Block 60, Lot 0. Lot B, Fitch Avenue, Assessors Map U22, Block 68, Lot 0. Welcome back. I wonder if you could just walk us through what our new situation is with this work over there at the Charleswood School.
Absolutely. For the record, Claire Hogebone, wetland scientist with LEC Environmental Consultants on behalf of the applicant. So the commission might recall that we attended the last April 8th Conservation Commission meeting to informally discuss this new discovery that was made after issuance of the order of conditions for the Charleswood Elementary School. What we discovered is an intermittent stream that flows into the northern portion of 147 Hayden Row Street, sort of in the center of that plan sheet that's on the shared screen. We identified the bank boundary of that stream and found a buried culvert that directs the stream continuing south off-site. And we showed the commission some revised plans that depict these features now. It does place additional buffer zone onto this parcel that was not previously identified through the original notice of intent review. And after the discussion with the Conservation Commission on April 8th, it was determined that the project teams should submit this amended notice of intent to request an amended order of conditions so we can have an accurate representation of these features on the plan of record. So what we provided to you in the submittal are the revised specific plan sheets, the civil sheets, and the landscaping sheets that now show this feature and the buffer zones. The civil sheets also have notes directing the contractor to identify elevations of this culvert and replace it in the field during construction in place. And it's essentially that darker solid line feature that crosses underneath the proposed driveway entrance. The plan also shows a paved driveway turnaround that's in an easement just closer to the entrance off of Hayden Row Street that wasn't previously identified. And that was determined through discussions with that neighbor to ensure that they have safe egress and ingress and egress from their home. The landscape plans also have only native plantings proposed within the buffer zones. So that is a revision that was made as well. And as you see, there's a couple of arrows pointing to plantings on the parcel to the north and fences on off-site on each side of the driveway entrance. But those notes specifically state that those features will be administratively approved by the conservation staff outside of this order of conditions, as we discussed at the April 8th meeting as well. I believe that covers everything. I think we provided full-size sheets of these revised plans to Judy and Anna at the Conservation Office, so they have that on file. But We can provide a compiled PDF as well for your records after we get through tonight's meeting.
Great, thank you. Claire, neither Melissa nor Matt is here right now, and they're kind of our water experts. So I'm going to ask you to dumb some stuff down for me because I don't fully understand what I see on the plans.
Okay.
Could you help me understand how the two catch basins on either side of the driveway work? How does the water move? How is the water being treated as it heads back into the stream? Is it being treated? Just walk me through the flow of water.
Sure. Judy, would you mind just zooming into that a little bit more? So you can see there's a lot of gray line work that's off-site, but on the north side where you see the wetland flags or the bank flags is where the stream flows south onto our site. And at the catch basin that's shown above two of those flags, that's where the stream will enter the culvert, the replaced culvert. And it continues about 700, maybe more feet in the culvert underneath multiple properties, and it daylights again very well south of our site. So where you see on the solid line of that replacement culvert on the south side of that, where there's a circle with a D inside of it, is where that's sort of the replacement location between that and the catch basin. So the water flows above ground north of our site, and it's going to continue to flow through a culvert within our site as it does presently. But the culvert will just be replaced to ensure that when the driveway is installed, there's no question or risk of it collapsing after the town worked so hard to construct this project.
Okay, that helps me a little bit. I think it would take hours for me to fully understand all of it, to be honest. But Joe, everything looked good to you, Joe? Someone who knows much more about these things than I?
Yeah, I did review all the revised information, and I had no issues with what I saw, and everything was in keeping with what was discussed with the commission at the previous hearing. So I had no comments or requests for any additional information.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are there any other commission questions?
Through the chair, this is Ed.
Please go ahead, Ed.
If this was known from the beginning, would this have had any effect on restoration work that would have to be done or wetland creation to compensate for the disturbance of the buffer zone?
Are you asking Claire?
Yes, I'm asking.
So that question's directed to me.
I'm asking whoever can answer it.
Through the chair.
Yes.
As they are proposing replacing an existing structure, that is something that is commonly exempted and permitted, and they're not proposing any resource area alteration. So there wouldn't be any required replication, and they are proposing now the all natives within the buffer zone. So there is an improvement there, but based on my knowledge, it doesn't seem as though there would have initially needed to be replication.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from commission members?
Not now. I'm all set.
Not now? Are you anticipating a question later? Because we might be wrapping this up.
As soon as I said that, I realized that was the, no, I have no questions. Thank
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public? I see none. So I guess I'm worried I'm going to get the language wrong, Judy. I'm looking for a motion to approve the NOI. Is that the correct verb? Is it just approval?
So it would be issuing an amended order of conditions to include the new material presented.
What Judy said, I'm looking for that motion in addition to allowing Judy to do our signatures.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And there's a second. Great. Let's do a roll call vote again. These are fun. I lost my, well, I'll try to do it by memory. Oh, no, here it is. Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
Jim,
All right.
and Ted Barker Hook is an aye. I think, Claire, you're all set, and hopefully we don't find any more pipes.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Moving down the agenda, we have another new hearing, which means I get to read another document. This is for Bay Path Humane Society, 66 Fruit Street. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 29th, 2025 at 7 p.m. virtually online to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Bay Path Humane Society of Hopkinton for the installation of underground utilities. Location, portion of 66 Fruit Street, Assessor's Map U3, Block 13, Lot 0, and a portion of 66B Fruit Street, Assessor's Map R6, Block 8, Lot 0. I believe we have a representative from Bay Path here. Elizabeth, are you there?
Hi, yep, I'm here.
Elizabeth, there's no reason you'd remember this, but in my very first term on the Zoning Advisory Committee,
Oh, I
think you
remember.
guys came in front of us as the very first step to
Yep.
where we are now. So
10 years ago, Ted.
everything old is new again.
Yep, certainly is.
Can
Yeah.
you tell us about your project and why you're here?
Yeah, so if it works for everyone, I'll just do a quick overview, real quick, of Bay Path, and then I believe Scott on our team is gonna fill you in on the really good details. But just real quick, my name's Elizabeth Jeffress. I'm the executive director. I've been with the organization for 14 long years. And thank you. I meant to lead with that. Thank you for taking the time tonight. But Bay Path has been in town since 1977, so 48 years in Hopkinton. We serve cats and dogs, about 1,000 animals cared for a year. But we've been growing in recent years, like the last 15 years or so. The needs of the community have changed. We have a partnership with Project Just Because for a pet pantry. We have a formal animal control relationship with the town of Hopkinton. We also work closely with Grafton, Westboro, Framingham, Rentham, a couple MOUs with other towns for animal control services, and a community education program as well, and obviously volunteers, fosters. But as we continued growing and noticed the need continue to grow in the community, we decided to approach the town. We have been on an Eversource lease since 1987. It's 3 years at a time. They don't really bother us, but they won't give us a long-term commitment. So we approached Ted et al. At the Zoning Advisory Committee in 2015, and everyone was super supportive. 2016, we worked with the town to change bylaws to allow for a shelter somewhere in town. In 2017, we got on the town meeting warrant to ultimately be able to answer an RFP to allow for a shelter. We did that. That RFP was issued in 2019. We were chosen in March of 2020 when the world shut down. We negotiated the lease all of 2021, and we signed it in June of 2022. Then we began the fundraising. We've raised just over 5.1 million currently of our $6.5 million goal. Along the way, the realities of post-COVID pricing and tariffs and different uncertainties have changed the dream a little bit, but we're definitely going to do this, and just appreciate the town's support. So that's the fuzzy stuff. So no one has any questions, I'll turn it over now to I guess Scott and maybe Chris for the details that you probably are most interested in.
Right.
So
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Hi, folks. I'm Scott Jordan, wetland scientist with Ecotech. Perfect, Judy. Yeah, sheet 4. So as Liz explained, there's a new facility proposed. The facility will be accessed off of Fruit Street. The proposed driveway and the entire facility is outside of riverfront area, buffer zones, et cetera. The only work that we're proposing that we filed the notice of intent for is connecting the water line to the new facility, which we're going to pull from there's a 12-inch main in Pratt Way, which is the access road to the ball fields. And we're going to follow the water line. We're going to connect in that 12-inch with an 8-inch and follow the existing sort of a gravel, sparsely vegetated, it's sort of a cart path / driveway / walking trail. So we won't be, there'll be no need to remove any trees, any woody vegetation. We're going to put it right along the cart path, which is fortunate. The only unfortunate part is we will be in the buffer zone. We will provide a straw wattle erosion control barrier. The work will just encompass trenching in this water main, backfilling, and then, ultimately connecting into the 12-inch in Pratt Way. We looked into bringing the water line in down the proposed driveway off of Fruit Street, but that's a 6-inch water main, and the town did not think that was adequate. They wanted to pull off of the 12-inch. So that's why we are forced to go down the buffer zone here. And that's the extent of the work in the buffer zone. Trench within an existing gravel cart path, backfill, and we'll be done. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Great, thank you very much. So just to let the commission members know, unless something has changed since yesterday afternoon, Bay Path doesn't have a DEP number yet. Is that still true?
Yes.
So we won't be able to close no matter how happy we might be with all of this. So this will have to be continued later, but it doesn't mean we can't discuss it and learn about it. Joe, have you had a chance to look at this?
I have.
Want to share with us your thoughts?
Sure. I did get out and have a chance to review the wetland delineation, and I was in general agreement with the flagged wetlands on the site. There were a couple of flags missing around the ground, but based on the obvious slope and adjacent flags, I think the locations that were indicated on the plan were appropriate. I didn't see any or find any additional wetland resource areas that would be of concern within 100 feet of any of the proposed work, not just the water line. I did walk the entire site and the perimeter of the entire site. I did also note that although not mapped as any potential certified vernal pools out there, there were areas within both wetland C and wetland B that appeared as potential vernal pools. I didn't spend a lot of time looking for any critters. I did do a quick look and didn't see any evidence of any salamander larvae or any tadpoles or any egg masses, but I think it'd be worth a look maybe with a dip net just to verify that. There was one in the wetland shown on the screen right now, which was fairly close to where they're proposing the water line. Also, there's a small wetland C that was identified as an isolated vegetated wetland. It's a very small area. You can see on the southern part of the plan right there. And that is connected to the BVW with a culvert shown in red. The culvert is quite elevated. So it's kind of a strange connection. I just thought maybe the applicant's consultant could give his take on why that was called out as IBW and not BVW with the connecting culvert there.
Would you like to hear that now? Would that be better for you? You want to go through your comments?
I've got a few more things, I think.
Okay,
and
we'll
come
go
back to
down to
that.
that.
So I'm just catching up on my own notes here. So
Okay.
also just noted, requested that the applicant describe if any soil stockpiles are going to be required for the work. And if so, those should be located. Also should describe how soil sediment will be kept out of the public roadways. I don't know if there's going to be any soil exposed for any length of time. It's probably going to be a pretty quick process of cut and cover, but would like that a little bit further explained. I did note that there are several non-native plants listed in the landscape plan, but those are all proposed outside of the buffer zone. No PIBs are proposed. That's something for the Conservation Commission to discuss if PIBs are at all appropriate at this location. And then the last comment was that there was a note in the construction PPP pollution prevention plan that noted the use of hay bales. Just would like to see those hay bales revised to say straw bales, just to make sure that there's no problem down the road. And that's it for my comments.
Great. Scott, I see that Joe's memorandum is dated today. My guess is that you haven't had much of a chance to look at it, or certainly not kind of deeply consider it, but do you have any initial thoughts on Joe's observations?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we got that, I don't know, late morning, midday, and we certainly can address all of these questions and comments. With regard to that C-series wetland, that little isolated wetland, that Joe, you may agree. I think this is a historic gravel mine. This area.
It certainly appeared that way. It's highly disturbed, to say the least.
Yeah. So what's interesting, if you look at the USGS map, the wetland B there, the larger wetland to the right, page right, is shown as like a pond with an intermittent stream coming out of it. It's dried up. I suspect that was a wash pond, sort of a sediment basin for gravel operation. And I suspect that C-series wetland was sort of a forebay in the gravel washing process. And there's a culvert that connected that. And Joe, we stood there for a while scratching our heads. Should we just call it BVW or not? I don't suspect. This is very sandy soils out here.
Yeah.
And I don't suspect this thing really even has hydrology anymore. I suspect that the hydric soils I found, the low chroma soils, are relic soils. So it's conservatively flagged. And the culvert is about 5 feet up from the bottom of this thing. I don't think it takes water anymore. I think it was part of the wash pond system. Regardless, the town takes isolated wetlands, so you getting your 25, 50, and 100. So to me, it didn't really matter either way. So I'm happy to call it whatever. The work's, in the buffer zone, temporary work. My understanding, I shot a note to the engineer. He said no stockpiles in the buffer zone are proposed. It's a cut and cover thing, and you folks can certainly condition that. Must backfill by the end of the day. Open trenching. As far as construction entrance, tire scrubber type of thing, he explained to me the access would be over Pratt Way to the south there. He said over a 400-foot long paved driveway. So we could certainly do as necessary sweeping of the paved roadway, but we wouldn't install, a stone tire scrubber on the paved.
Do you happen to know if there are any catch basins in Pratt Way that could potentially pick up sediment, could use a silt sack.
Are there?
I don't know. I didn't have.
Yeah, I would be shocked if there's drainage out in that road, but we can take a look at that. I would be shocked. Catch basins. What else? You had mentioned some ponding areas that were observed. The memo says in the A series wetland, which is shown at the top of this page and to the right, it's not being shown currently. That wetland turns out is well over 200 feet from our site. And further than that from our work. So even if there were a certifiable vernal pool in there, it would be well beyond 125 feet to our work. I actually ran out there. I live in Grafton, not too far away. I ran out there this afternoon to look at the ponding area in the B series wetland. And it is located between about B7 and B10, which is sort of the middle, upper middle. I don't know if you have a cursor, Judy. Beautiful. B7 down to B10. It's set back a few feet from those flags. So that wetlands, it's actually split into two little ponding areas. Yeah. In total, that's about 40 feet long. 8-ish, maybe 9 to 10 feet wide. I suspect it's just a low sort of a trench right at the edge of the cut that they used to make this pond, and it's 6, maybe 8 inches deep. So it's tiny. Talking about like 300 square feet. I also saw a green frog, which is not a vernal pool species, but I mean the criterion for certification requires 5 mating pairs of obligate species, or 5 egg masses would work. And in my opinion, I don't think this probably qualifies as a vernal pool, but I did not dip net. So regardless if it is or if it isn't, this is where we would like to run the water line. Again, we can't come off of Fruit Street with it. The town won't allow us to connect into that small 6-inch. And we're going over a already developed area, being a gravel roadway, so we don't have to remove any vegetation. So, and it's a quick job. So I don't know if the commission wants a formal vernal pool evaluation, but again, even if it was determined to be a vernal pool, I think we would seek a waiver to keep this project in that proposed location. So we don't have to start doing major grading. If we move that to the left, to the west, you can start to see where the grades, picking up some grade there. So we have to do major grading, tree removal, etc. So I think that would be our request is to keep this layout.
Okay, without it becoming too much back and forth between Joe and Scott, Joe, any thoughts from what?
No, I agree with what Scott's saying. Is that it's they're installing in an existing pathway. They're not significantly disrupting any habitat, potential upland habitat if it is vernal pool. Okay. Just as a little bit of further clarification, I know exactly the area you're talking about where you saw the small pools. If you go a little bit further along the line by flags, I think B1, B4 up in that area, it opens up again into a larger pool.
Okay, I didn't even see that one.
Yeah, okay. But it's still, I think your comments still apply either location.
Yeah, I think this layout is just best ecologically, certainly from construction perspective. It's our only way in, is off of Pratt Way with this water line. And if we move westward away from these possible vernal pools, potential vernal pool isn't even the correct term. That's a mapped thing in the by Natural Heritage. These are not mapped potential vernal pools. We call these possible vernal pools. Then we're doing a lot of grading and tree clearing and stuff. So,
so one of the things you mentioned, Scott, is the possibility of doing a more formal vernal pool analysis. And then if we did find them, then you'd ask for a waiver. I don't know how the rest of the commission, Joe or Judy, feels, but one of the things I like is accurate maps so that we have that for historical purposes. So I don't know, Joe, Judy, my inclination is to say, even if it requires asking for a waiver, I'd like to see an accurate map. And if those are determined to be vernal pools, that it ought to be represented. Joe, Judy, either one? Am I out of line with that? Or out of keeping with what we've done?
Through the chair, I'm not 100% sure what y'all have done in the past, but what you can either do that I learned from Joe today is either have them confirm there's a vernal pool, or through any order issued for this work, state that you're not confirming the presence of a vernal pool or not. If the commission chooses, they don't need to have that information, but if any new additional work were proposed within 125 feet of that potential vernal pool, that a determination would have to be made. If that makes sense.
It does.
Through the chair.
Yes, who is that?
It's Matt.
Oh, Matt, you're here. It's good to have you. Matt, are you just saying you're here, or do you have some thoughts?
No, I had thoughts as I'm driving.
Great. Happy to hear you.
Quick question for Joe, and then thoughts based on his answer. But Joe, am I correct in understanding the vernal pool season has come and gone at this point?
Well, the egg masses are pretty much gone, but there's still some time if you do some dip netting to catch tadpoles and larval salamanders.
And what's the window look like for getting that done? Is that like it has to be done in the next week or two?
The sooner the better. I haven't been dip netting recently, so I'm not sure quite how far along they are, but I'd imagine that in some areas they're probably getting close to leaving the pools.
That's fair. I knew we were getting close to the end of that window. So
yeah.
to that end, Ted, my thoughts on it would be that we have a condition in there saying that we're not determining whether there is or is not a vernal pool on the property, just because the timing to get Scott out there, potentially see something or not see something, we're cutting it awfully close. And to the point he made, with the work being in an existing cart path with no tree clearing, and really the only option for bringing water into the site, I don't know that those added costs and time necessarily change how we would view the work. Just my thoughts on the situation.
I don't think those are unreasonable. Other commission members, do you have thoughts on this particular issue, or if you want
to? Ted, this is Jim. I just, if we accept that Matt said, well, then I think in the past we have voted on, and if we've approved the notice of intent, it's conditioned on getting the number first, getting the DEP number. So I think we've done that before, where we voted on stuff without the DEP number, and then but we waited for the number to issue it. Make sense?
Is that true?
Through the chair, I don't believe that's recommended, just because we have 21 days once the commission votes, and the off chance we don't get DEP comments in that time, it's not worth the risk of running out of time on our end.
Yeah, but what happens without the number at 21 days, though?
Then we have to issue without DEP comments, which I don't know that we've ever done, but they are required to review, so it might just get sticky.
I'm just thinking historically, I think we have done the approval in the past pending DPW, but we decided, I believe, that we would not do that anymore.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Thank you, Jean.
Sure.
Yeah, through the chair, especially if DEP has comments, if the hearing's already closed, then you guys can't discuss any further. But yeah, no, DEP really frowns upon the closing of public hearings prior to the issuance of a DEP file number.
And then sort of regarding the sort of, approval not confirming vernal pool or not, I mean, since we have done that in the past, we've set that precedent. So I would be okay with, doing that again. We wouldn't be sort of charting new territory by doing that on this one.
Yeah, but I no longer like the idea of doing it without it and without DEP comments.
No, not DEP comments, the confirming whether the existence of a vernal pool or not.
Oh, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like, unless somebody hasn't spoken up, it sounds like we really would like to get the DEP number before we vote or approve anything. So we'll keep it that way. And that will also, and I certainly don't want to slow Bay Path down anymore, but it started 10 years ago, another extra meeting or two. I don't think this is as big a tragedy at this point.
Fair point.
I'd be shocked if there were comments from DEP, but we'll see.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I just have to mention before we close that I did file a disclosure of appearance of conflict of interest for this filing, as recommended by the State Ethics Commission, as I do volunteer with Bay Path. They recommended it's okay that I still make comments and suggestions, as I'm not making any permit decisions and not on any voting board with Bay Path. So just wanted to let you all know that, and it's in the public folder as well.
Great, thank you. I remember that from the notes and then forgot about it. So thanks for popping in. So yeah, and I think also if we wait for the DEP number, that'll give Scott a little bit of time to address some of the more minor stuff that that Joe brought up and make those small fixes as need be, which I think would be good. This is about as previously disturbed as you're ever going to find. If you haven't gone through the photos, folks, please do. I have one question on one photo, and I don't think you have to dig it up, Judy. I don't know who took it. There's a photo, it looks like of someone's house and driveway. It looks beautiful. It doesn't look anything like the wasteland of Fruit Street. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what we're supposed to be gathering from that photo. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No, I'm curious.
It's no longer on my iPad, so I'd have to dig for it again. I have Joe's letter on my iPad right now.
I'm digging and I can't find it either.
I'm going to have to go through my photos and see if something snuck in there.
There it was. I'm going to just hold it up to the screen. It looks like that.
Yeah, I don't know where that is.
Anyway, it is clearly very, very, very previously disturbed. Are there any comments from the public before we look for a continuation of this? I see none. We need to vote on a continuation?
Yes.
So the next meeting?
Oh, Ted, sorry to interrupt. That's I know what that is. That is right when you come out of the driveway. You like when people would be leaving Bay Path, that's between those two houses that are like 55 and 57.
Oh,
so that's the view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I know where that is now.
Yeah. So you're like, because I remember looking and reminding myself that like the headlights would go between the homes, thank God, instead of into.
Oh, and not into their living room.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful entrance to a desolate wasteland beyond.
Yeah.
So great. I think would the next meeting, which is May 11th? 13th. Would that work for you guys?
Absolutely.
And we have space.
Our big in DEP.
And we have space on that agenda?
Yep.
Great. So I guess I would love to hear a motion to continue this to May 13th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
And we will have a roll call vote. Ed Harrow,
Aye.
Janine LeBlanc,
Aye.
Heather Burton,
Aye.
Jim Cirillo,
Aye.
Matt Moyen,
Aye.
and Ted Barker Hook is an aye. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you
You
all.
sound like a
so much.
you sound like a game show host here, Ted.
I sound like a game show host.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
I don't know how to respond to that. I don't know if that's a compliment. I don't know.
Say thank you. Say thank you. That's all you have to do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. With the passing of Wink Martindale, maybe I'll step in his shoes.
You forgot to say that this is being filmed in front of a live audience, too.
All right, we have another new hearing. Although it's property we've seen before, we have a brand new notice. The Hopkinton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 29th, 2025 at 7 p.m., virtually online to hear all persons interested in a notice of intent filed by Yuan Li and Rui He to construct a single-family house, driveway, and associated work. Location 30 West Main Street, Assessors Map U18, Block 32, Lot 0. 0 West Main Street, Assessors Map U18, Block 33, Lot 0. And 0 Elm Street, Assessors Map U18, Block 19, Lot 0. Welcome to the Conservation Commission. Is there someone who is ready to fill us in on what you've got for us tonight?
Yes, good evening. For the record, my name is Sam Alfronti. I'm a civil engineer with Solely Engineering. Our offices are based in Norwood, Mass. Judy, I have a short presentation if I could share my screen, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Make sure you have sharing privileges. All right. Don't see your screen yet.
About now.
Yep, that looks good.
Okay. So for the record, again, Sam Alfronti, civil engineer with Solely Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the owners, applicants, Ruhi and Yan Li. I believe Yan is on as well. I saw her name earlier.
Yes.
So we're here before you. We, as chairperson mentioned, this project was before the commission a few months ago, and it was withdrawn formally, so we could resubmit the notice of intent. And I can just take you through a brief presentation. I'm sure you guys are relatively aware of this project site. It's basically the property between Elm Street and West Main Street. It is heavily inundated with resource areas along, I guess, the northern and western side of the property, kind of along, it runs parallel to Elm Street, the Indian Brook does. It's about 7.59 acres in total. And the delineations were approved by this commission in May 11, 2023 under an ORAD. And this image that's shown here was included as part of the permitting plan set. It just gives a good representation of the wetland areas, the watercourse areas, which are shaded in gray. We have the riverfront 100-foot inner riparian and 200-foot riverfront shown in red. And then we have the wetland buffers 50 and 100 shown in kind of a lighter blue. Very similar to the previous application, the single-family home that is proposed is proposed to be accessed through the 30 West Main Street property as the only accessible path to this developable area, upland area that is located on the 0 Elm Street property. I could take you through just a zoomed-in image of the site plan. I know previously in the application, it was kind of shown as 2 potential driveways after kind of an evaluation that took place, it was determined that I think it was originally proposed as the eastern driveway. That was the more suitable location and proposal. So that is the path or the project that's proposed in front of you. We are proposing a 430 linear foot driveway. I have been in communication with the fire department. I know that was brought up by one commission member at the previous hearings. And we are proposing to kind of traverse the property line, the eastern property line, through the West Main Street property, go around the existing barn that's out there, kind of hug the property line. The grading we have basically 2-to-1 slope or 3-to-1 slope off of the driveway to minimize the disturbance and impact to the property. And we are proposing a geocell driveway, which is a plastic reinforced driveway that is gravel base as well, that provides some structural stability and minimizes really the impact to the subsoil. That's the goal of this driveway design. And then we are able to access the upland portion of the property. One of the main changes with this NOI, as opposed to the previously filed NOI, is we are proposing some disturbance within the riverfront area. And it's mainly grading associated with the septic design. I know that was something that the commission had comments on previously. So we do have a fully designed Title V septic system and leaching field. We have not went before the Board of Health, but we intend to. So this is just a step along the way. But and this shows you the grading and utility plan, shows you kind of the water line, domestic water service, electrical, and septic system that is proposed. The house that's proposed is just under 3,700 square feet. It's, I believe, 56 by 66. One of the things that we did receive comments from Judy following our initial submission to the town. And one thing that was clarified was regarding a waiver request. And our interpretation of the town's regulations is that driveways are permitted within the 50-foot buffer. I think there's a 10-foot buffer for driveways. So that was our interpretation of it and why we did not submit a waiver request for that. So the only location that is within 50 feet is just this driveway section here. And the closest point of our disturbance is 14.5 feet from the wetland. All other disturbance is proposed outside of the 50-foot buffer. As I mentioned, we do have some disturbance within the riverfront area. And I'd be happy to answer questions. We've provided a supplemental alternative analysis memo. I'd be happy to go through that. This project has not been issued an NOI file number, or DEP file number, excuse me. And I don't believe I've received review comments from the commission's consultant yet. So we don't intend, obviously, to close, but I'd be happy to hear some comments, questions, and maybe explain myself a little bit more if you guys need clarification.
I think that would be great. And no, there's, I don't think any way we're going to close. This is a very difficult site. And I think this may take a lot of conversation. Joe, you have not, just to confirm, you have not been able to look over the plans and check the property?
I have just late today submitted a review on this. I don't know if you want me to go over anything or just give the applicant time to look things over and for you guys to take a look at things.
For the chair?
Yes.
We received the comments right as Judy and I were leaving for the day, so we hadn't gotten a chance to review them to provide any feedback to Lucas before sharing them with that.
Yeah, I guess my response, unless there's pushback from commission members, is we're not wrapping this up today anyway. I would really like to have time to chew through what Joe has to say and not just hear the big overview from him. So thank you, Joe. I'm glad you got that done, but let's push that off so that we have more time to consider it. Before I open it up to commission members and public, I just have a question or a comment or two. You said you've checked with the fire department. Do you have any feedback on what they think about that driveway? I am not the fire department, but that practically 90-degree sharp turn, I would imagine, could be an issue. Do you have any feedback from them, or are you waiting for feedback?
So I had preliminary conversations with, I believe it was the deputy chief, if I'm not mistaken. I have their turning template for their fire engine. So their requirement is 500 feet, which I believe was a discussion point at the previous hearing. Not that it's in the buffer zone, but it really wouldn't change the LOD. But their minimum radius, internal radius of the driveway is 40 feet, which our radius proposed here, I don't have it on this plan, but I believe it is 60. So I don't envision any issues, but I do intend to submit a turning swept path analysis to the fire department. Like I said, I don't think that would hold up any Conservation Commission review or approval, but it is in process.
Okay. So the other thing is I gave a read of the alternatives analysis letter, and some of them I read and I say, yeah, that makes sense. So trying to enter from Elm Street seems like an absurd proposition. Anyway, and I see that you mentioned often wouldn't have impact on the riverfront area, and okay, or would have minimal impact on riverfront area. But we're charged with protecting more than just the riverfront area. So the one that especially caught my eye is alternative 2, reduction in development envelope. And at the conclusion, you say it would fail to reduce RFA disturbance in any significant way. That may or may not be true, but certainly reducing the size of the house, the size of the lawn, would reduce impacts on buffer zone areas. The work is outside of the 50 you mentioned, but it's almost entirely within the 100-foot buffer zone, which is ours to protect. So my thought is, wouldn't reducing it reduce buffer zone impacts? And secondly, the line that especially caught me is, where is it? Now I can't find it. It said there it is, consistent with surrounding homes. When I looked at the homes on all of the abutting properties and across the street, there was one that was in the neighborhood of the same size of this proposed home. All of the other homes were substantially smaller than this. So if an alternatives analysis is saying this is in keeping with all the other homes, I would say, no, it's not.
Yeah, if I could respond.
Please.
So one thing that I want to ensure the commission, and it seems like some of your comments were kind of misleading a little bit. So this performance standards is just applicable to the riverfront area. Okay. So I don't necessarily disagree that the property is entirely within the buffer areas. But specific to the riverfront area, which it's most clearly shown on what I have shown on the screen here. So this red dash dot line is the 200-foot riverfront area. Uh-huh. The extent of the disturbance is largely due to the grading of the septic system. We aren't proposing any structures within the 200-foot riverfront area, and the septic system in the leaching field is located based on soil testing. So that has a large impact. That was kind of the reasoning of that alternative 2. Reduction of the house, while I understand where you're getting at there, the septic system is still going to be located adjacent to the riverfront area, and the grading associated with that would still be required to disturb portions of the riverfront area. We are proposing there's 174,000 square feet of riverfront area on this property. We're proposing 560 square feet. It's less than it's about a 2% disturbance. And I truthfully, I think it's a reasonable disturbance proposed in the sense of the siting of the leaching field, the large portion of riverfront area and environmental areas on this property that are going to remain undisturbed and really inaccessible once this house is built. So that's kind of the logic there. I apologize if that's not entirely explicit on this memo. I had a difficult time putting this memo together, truthfully. I tried to outline as much as I could, but that's kind of the path. And I'd be happy to answer more questions if you're.
Sure, and I would bet you there is other feedback. Again, this is a pretty challenging site. But for now, I'll leave my comment where it stands. And I'll open it up to other commission members if you have initial thoughts on a process that could take a while.
Yeah, well, I just have a question, Pat.
Go ahead, Jim.
On the site plan that was shown before this, riverfront, can we go back to that? I don't think the septic area was shown on that. I see it here. On this one here, oh, it is shown. Oh, there was one I was looking at that wasn't. Okay, so it's all there. Okay.
Yeah, I apologize.
I want to know.
The septic. Yeah, the septic system
not.
On our site layout plan, we don't have it shown, but it's shown very clearly on the grading and utilities plan as well as overall site plan.
Okay.
We try to.
Thank you.
We try to put layers on so it is easier for kind of reading purposes.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, no, I know that one. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any other commission members with initial reactions or questions?
I guess for initial reactions, mine would be, this is a huge project, a huge house, a gigantic backyard, and a large concrete pad on a area that only has a small upland area to build on. So I guess that's my initial reaction. It's quite big for such a challenging, small buildable area.
Thank you, Janine. Other commission members?
And I would echo the general sort of thoughts that have been expressed.
Thank you, Ed. Oh, Matt, you're out of the car.
I'm back in the house, out of the car.
As long as you spoke up, do you have any thoughts initially, or do you want to sit on this a bit?
No, I don't have any initial thoughts. I think one thing that jumped out, we got to talk about PIBs at some point, of course. But other than that, I'd like to see this kind of advance a little bit further, hear from Joe and kind of get a little more info.
Understandable completely. Any other commission members? Do we have any comments from the public? None. That surprised me. Okay, so I think what we need to do is continue, get a hold of, go ahead. I'm sorry, Sam.
I just have a quick question. Commissioner Moyen mentioned, I think, PIDs. What is that acronym? Sorry if I'm not familiar with it.
Permanent removable barriers. So in Hopkinton, one of the things we do is when there's a project on a property that has wetlands, we request that these
conservation buffers.
Yeah, it's sort of like a conservation buffer. It's basically a little 4-inch plaque that gets mounted to trees or to fences or to, like a iron beam, just so that homeowners and other developers in the future understand there are resources beyond that point, and they should be calling the commission to see if they need to file.
Gotcha. Yep.
So I think it's like 40 feet on center is kind of our baseline for where we place them. But we look at it on a case by case basis.
Okay. Good to know. I can, I'm sure we're going to get a comment, but I can work on getting that addressed too.
Great. Okay, seeing no more comments, I guess, are you open, Sam, to coming back on the 13th?
Yeah, the 13th works. I'm not sure. Judy, I don't know how long typically the turnaround for sending out comments is, but if we receive them sometime this week, we could hopefully give them back to the town and Lucas for another review, maybe a week prior to the 13th, if that aligns. If not, we'll have to continue to the later meeting, I suppose. But let's, I guess, shoot for the 13th, and we'll kind of play it by ear there.
Yeah, I'll get you the review this week.
Okay, awesome.
All right, great. Could I get a motion to continue this hearing to May 13th, please?
I'll make that motion.
And
Second.
there's the second. Which one wants that?
Janine beat me to the punch.
Janine,
I thought you made the motion.
no, I think Jim
Can't
made
do
the
both.
I want to make sure it's all clear for Anna, who's taking notes. So you
Yes.
give Anna a thumbs up. All right, let's vote on that motion to continue. Ed,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Heather,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and Ted Barker Hook is also an aye. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good evening. Bye.
All right, with that, we are done with new hearings. We're going to move to continued. And Matt, I want to give you a heads up that I think I can get us through item number 4, the Ravenwood hearing, but then I may need to leave and get out of the school so that the maintenance crew can go home.
Oh, good. We'll
Are
pick
you
it up
good with
if
that?
we need to depart. Yep.
Okay. All right. So with that, we will revisit our Zero Wood Street Ravenwood LLC. Do we have a member of the Nation family or a representative for them?
Good evening, Mark Arnold here with Goddard Consulting, here on behalf of the ANRAD hearing for 188-1841 Ravenwood LLC. So just to start off the hearing, this is a abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. We did receive a memorandum from Lucas Environmental late this morning, which we have been able to review. We weren't sure if Joe would want to give the commission a summary of that, or we did have a few things we thought should be clarified at a public hearing before we look to make some minor tweaks to the plans to make sure that things were kind of cleared away from a clerical standpoint on the plans.
Okay. Joe?
Yeah, commission's choice if they want me to go first, or have the applicant kind of comment on my comments. Some of my comments may be able to be addressed initially, and I don't have to go over those. But
Mark, do you have a preference who speaks first?
I mean, I'm fine with walking through what Joe had commented, and if Joe feels that that's more efficient, I'm glad to do that. So if Joe, if you want me to proceed, then
let's roll.
Yep.
All right. All right, let's try to get this moving forward. So thanks so much. So Joe commented that he has been on the site. He did review the wetland line and also walked it with us and made those changes. He did review the wetland line, and those changes and the flagging changes did appear to were consistent with what he had noted in the field. He did note that several of the wetland lines don't extend to the property line. These wetlands, as shown in the plans, are wetland fingers that reach off of that are wetlands off property that come onto our property in a finger and then go back off property. We didn't bother delineating them further because the buffer zones that they reflect are onto the property, and everything behind them is off property and not relevant to whatever the applicant would be doing on the property. And so in terms of relevance and in jurisdictional areas and buffer zones, we think that reflects the jurisdictional areas for the purposes of the ANRAD itself. The plans do show a portion of the northern end of the wetlands, although it's basically just one of the last flags that kind of extends off to the north. And that property is a separate property. It's not part of this ANRAD. We just show the connection. And Joe, we can update the plans to just pull back slightly so you can show you F29, which F29 is on the northern property, which is under a separate order of conditions, which is valid at this time. So the line that's shown is connecting to F29, but we can show F29 just to show the continuity of the wetlands from that northern property, which does have an order of conditions to the new property itself. And I know you looked at that that line as a whole. You just want to make sure that it's shown for clarity, and that makes absolute sense, and we appreciate that's a good comment to have from you. The next comment Joe had was in terms of the ILSF calculation. So just to recap what we discussed with the commission at the last hearing, there are two large isolated vegetated wetlands, the S series and the T series, and we ran the ILSF calculations for both. We determined that the T series is a very large isolated wetland. It clearly would meet ILSF volume calculations. And so we drew the extent of ILSF based on the topography of that wetland. And ILSF is based on the ponding and flooding of a wetland to where it extends to the maximum extent, and then eventually it can't flood higher in elevation. It has to eventually spill out. It goes somewhere else, like a dam cresting. So basically, if the commission and Joe looked at those plans, you'd see that the spot elevations at the extent of ILSF, which was shown in red in that exhibit plan, basically that extent there, you start seeing spot elevations below elevation 402. And that elevation is the spillover point to where after 402, the ground drops down like a spillway of a dam, and there will be no ability for water to be retained within that wetland before it would spill out into the upland around it. Again, this is and sometimes ILSF is the theoretical. If it ever did flood to a certain extent, it would raise this amount. It's unlikely that it does unless there was a massive storm of over 100 years potentially. But that's basically the methodology that DEP has for ILSF. So in terms of that, we're not disputing that. And so we don't think engineering calculations are necessary. It's actually fairly straightforward to understand that's the high point in the saddle. Then no water can go above that elevation based on that. And I know Joe and I did walk that area for the wetland line to see that area, and it's pretty obvious there's no ability for the water to go higher than that. And that topo is all completed by a PLS surveyor. The other isolated vegetated wetland is the S series, and as we showed, based on the contours provided by the engineer, again, by the surveyor, the elevation there is pretty clear where it actually spills out to in terms of elevation. And then we did the ILSF calculations as required by DEP. We do think those are accurate to show the area is fairly small in terms of area and also in terms of depth. Once you look at the size of the area, it's a lot smaller than the T series. And then also the depths of that are also very different in terms of how shallow it is compared to the T series. And therefore, from a logical standpoint, it makes sense it's not isolated land-sided flooding now that you can see the area, but also we did run the numbers to confirm that. And so we don't think those require additional engineering calculations to review, but we're hoping that could be clarified tonight, just to make sure there's nothing else that we need to submit in terms of those calculations there. We did, sorry, I'm just walking through his comments. It says
there are plenty of them.
there are. Oh yeah. So
through the chair, Ted, can I jump in real quick?
Yes, please do.
Before we move to the next point. Joe, I may have missed it. Do you agree with the boundaries of Goddard's isolated land subject to flooding?
Yes, I think the survey. I'll let me answer that in the long answer. The survey data, I think, is appropriate and shows that the one basin is too small to hold the required volume of water. I think that's the S basin, the S wetland, and that the T depression is large enough to hold the required volume. I think the main point I was trying to raise is that it's being assumed that wetland T floods to the maximum extent, and that's what they're calling the boundary of the isolated lands of flooding. For an accurate determination of the boundary of isolated lands subject to flooding, you need to have either the observed maximum extent of flooding that recorded extent of flooding in an area, or you run the engineering calculations based on a rainfall event and potential contribution by groundwater to determine if the watershed is large enough to fill that depression to the required volume of water. So that's the calculation that I was just bringing up, that if I think the boundary of the isolated landscape flooding for wetland T is on the conservative side, because it's assuming that entire area floods, which may or may not be true based on the size of the contributing watershed.
We agree with that statement, that Joe, we think it is conservative. It may not actually flood to that extent, but rather than going through expensive topo survey of that whole area to try to determine if it's slightly smaller than the extent, because it's all within the isolated vegetated wetland, it doesn't really affect the jurisdictional extent of the wetlands. And so we decided to, rather than go through expense of making it smaller for really no extra value to anybody, we decided to call it conservatively larger, to the largest extent it could potentially become if it was run through the whole crunch. But again, it could be smaller.
Okay. No, that I wanted to hear from Joe was that, this is either conservative or accurate, and that it could not be larger. So I'm comfortable, at least from my perspective, that the engineering calculations wouldn't be needed.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it. So, Mr. Chair, can I continue?
Please do.
Right. So, this is a comment 3F. Matt, Joe talked about the northern wetland line again, the F series F1 to F29. We'll add that to we'll add F29 to the plans, just so that way you can see how that overlaps with that DEP number. And we could probably add a reference number to that flag as well, saying this is part of that DEP number, just so that way, as someone looks at these plans and ever looks at and looks at those plans, maybe collectively, they'll understand how they connect to each other. We did, Joe, we're able to swing by really quickly this afternoon, squeeze it in between visits. We looked at the R series wetland, and that area is BVW. There is a pipe that actually goes underneath Valleywood Drive. So we'll correct that and call the R series a BVW. So it doesn't change what's out there. It's just whether it's isolated or vegetated. So there is BVW, because there's a culvert that does connect underneath Valleywood Drive. When they built that roadway, they put a hydrologic pipe through just to make sure there was some relief in terms of drainage. We can definitely submit colored plans per the bylaw and ANRAD checklist, Joe. We'll still give you the originals as well, just because that's what the engineer gives us. We'll make sure they're all highlighted and colored the way the bylaw has that. The DEP data forms, Joe, sorry about those Scrivener errors. I mean, we're acknowledging their wetland data sheets, and it's all there. Just again, we'll just make sure that gets clarified for the record, just for clarity. We'll update the narrative just to kind of summarize what has happened, and give you an updated Excel sheet with the flag locations for coordinates, so that way you've got those on records. And then in terms of Mass DEP's comments, we did, you have field verified this area, Joe, as DEP recommended. The commission have someone field verify that their area is correct. Joe has done that. We've done the ILSF calculations, which we just discussed. And then we did also, Joe, we also walked the area between the S series and the T series to make sure that there was no no connection wetland-wise between those two wetlands. And there is nothing there, though it feels like there should be, but it's just the way that it's the nature of those watersheds. They're small enough, they don't connect. So we have some plan changes to make, just again, some edits and Scrivener stuff there on the DEP data sheet, so we can update as well. So we're not expecting to close tonight, but we appreciate your time tonight, and look forward to getting an approval, hopefully at the next meeting, if there's no other comments. But again, if there's any other comments, let us know.
Great.
Chair?
Yes, who's that?
Just want to point out one thing.
Joe, go ahead.
One thing that wasn't touched on is that the kind of in the center areas of both wetland T and wetland S, there are depressions that had the look of possibly being vernal pools. I don't know if that has been further inspected. I was under the impression that that was going to be looked at a little bit further this spring. I don't know if that's been done or not with respect to potential vernal pools or possible vernal pools, if you like.
Mark?
We haven't done anything to my knowledge. I can check with the applicant about whether or not we're going to have a biologist out there. I mean, this is an ANRAD for wetlands, so we're planning on doing a wildlife study out here. But we can check in with that. But I mean, we weren't we filed this without the intention of doing any type of wildlife surveys.
And the other vernal pool comment was that the previously approved order of conditions plan for the property to the north indicates that there is a vernal pool down gradient of the wetland F delineated boundary that potentially it appeared that the 125-foot buffer from that probably stays within the 100-foot buffer from the wetland boundary, but that might want to be shown on the plan also.
Yeah, Joe, we can see where that lands. I'm trying to find that it might be good for you and or Judy to take a look at that approval. And again, that approval was 188-1718. So that vernal pool was very, very interior to that F series wetlands. It was not in the middle. And I think because if you look to the record, I think Matt looked at that when we were getting that approval in place. I'm trying to find, my apologies that I'm not finding those plans more rapidly. Here we go. I think. I know there was a question that did come up about that, and I know it was quite interior to.
Yeah, the critical aspect would be as if the 125-foot buffer extends beyond the 100-foot buffer in any location on the site.
Yeah, that wetland does. If I can share my screen, I can pull up those plans just to kind of give the context a little bit, although it's difficult with the scale here.
Is that all right with you, Chair?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay. I should have screen sharing.
All right, so I'm just gonna try to see if I can put these side by side just to help. It's going to be a little bit of a stretch in terms of the scaling because it's of understanding, but just to show you how far away we are here. Here we go. This should do it. All right, I'm going to share my desktop, which is a dangerous thing. So this is the plan here that was for 188-1718, and which was this crossing here with the stormwater basin over here, This is the wetland series, this F series here. So F13, 15, 16, 17, 18 is shown here, and it goes along here. And you can see inside here, this is the edge of the vernal pool. And this whole wetland drains southwest to northeast. And so the ponding gets shallow. It doesn't really start is really at the lower end of this, which is the northeast end of this wetland. You can see how far interior it is. And this is at F18. And our wetland series for this ANRAD is starts at F30. So you're 15 flags up gradient of this area, or say 10 flags up gradient, and those flags are about 30 feet apart, 300 feet. We don't think that is, but we'll double check, Joe, just to do a quick look.
Yeah, I think if you scroll to the next sheet on the order of conditions plan, where it runs south.
Oh, you're right. Hold on, you're right. There we go.
A little bit closer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, something's going on with the PDR. So here's, yeah.
So there it runs a little bit closer, but I think a few spots it might get close to being within 25 feet, but I think.
Yeah, we did have it running. Yeah, you can see it runs about 50, over 50 feet interior to the wetland line. Is the vernal pool itself. back in that area there. But we can show. I think we might have some data above this, so we can show that data, Joe, there just as a point of clarification.
Yeah, I think it would be important just to have that buffer line on the plan, just for any potential future considerations of work in that area.
Yeah, understood.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I would echo that sentiment that Joe just had for the other areas where he questioned whether or not there are vernal pools. Moving forward, if and when a project happens on this site, one of the first things I imagine we're going to ask as a commission is, are there or aren't there vernal pools? Because it's not, you're not asking for that to be decided as part of this ORAD. So given we're at the close of the vernal pool season, my suggestion would be to try to boogie out there and put eyes on it and get us some information on whether or not, in your opinion, Mark, or your biologist's opinion, that there are or are not vernal pools.
Thank you for that comment.
Put you in a better spot.
Thank you for that comment.
You, Mark, ran through a whole bunch of stuff very quickly, and I'm impressed with Joe being able to say, wait, you didn't respond to this or that. I was not able to keep up quite as well. But Joe didn't raise this question, so you probably did address it. I'm looking at comment H about whether there is a stream or culvert present, which apparently is on mapping. Did you respond to that comment? And if so, could you just remind me what you said?
I did. There is a stream that our series of wetlands should be called bordering vegetated wetlands. So we'll update that on the plans. It doesn't really change anything else. It's just an intermittent stream. It's a culvert that provides hydrologic relief because of the raised roadway on Valleywood Drive.
Okay, thank you. And then my only other question, and this might be because I'm a high school history teacher. We have had very little rain. We're under severe drought conditions. And I would imagine that means our vernal pool season is shrinking more quickly than most years. Joe, do all of these evaluations get impacted by our extreme drought conditions lately? Is it harder to make these evaluations? I mean, I don't know. It seems to me, obviously we can check soils and you guys can look for hints of stuff there, even if there's no water. But does our current weather condition, Joe, give you any hesitation with final decisions on these things?
Short answer, no.
Yeah.
I think if we were not taking a conservative approach regarding the isolated land to the flooding, if the boundary of isolated land was being delineated based on observed limit of flooding, then there would be an argument, well, it's not typical limit of flooding. But because they're assuming that the flooding extends to the limit of the isolated basin, that doesn't come into play in this case.
Okay, great. Thanks. Are there any other commission comments or questions before we look to continue this?
Through the chair, not a commission member, but I did have one question.
Please.
I did notice on the overlapping ILSF T-Series IVW, there's some areas where they aren't a perfect match, and the 100-foot buffer to ILSF is protected under the bylaw. So I might want to see that drawn on separately in the areas where it differentiates from the IVW buffer zone.
Mark, are you comfortable with that?
Yep. We'll add that. I'm adding that note right now.
Great. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, I would love to get a motion and a second to continue. I assume May 13th is good for you, Mark?
Yes, please.
Okay. Motion and a second to continue this hearing to May 13th, please.
This is Ed. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
And we are ready to have a roll call vote. Ed Harrow.
Aye.
Janine LeBlanc,
Aye.
Heather Burton,
Aye.
Jim Cirillo,
Aye.
Matt Moyen,
Aye.
Ted Barker Hook is also an aye. Mark and Craig, we'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Welcome. And with that, I'm afraid I need to vacate my office here at school and go home. Just to let you know, Matt, we got through all the work session items except for public forum requests. And hopefully you saw the updated agenda that the 47 Oakhurst Road has already been continued.
All right. So we got 2 items left.
We've got 2 items left. I wish I could stick around, everybody. See everyone on May 13th. Oh, I did want to say this. Commission members, Hopkintonians, please go to town meeting. I know it's a long slog. It's democracy at its finest. It's our town. Please be a part of town meeting. I'll be there. I'll look to say hi. With that, I'll say good night.
Night, Ted.
Good night.
Judy, I'll ask that you continue controlling the screen here because I'm just logged in through the general login. So I have no additional controls tonight.
No problem.
So it sounds like we're ready to move on to 17 Ledgestone Drive, a continuation of a notice of intent for an addition on a single family home. Do we have any representatives from the applicant here with us?
Yes, that would be me.
Mike, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Judy, is there anything you'd like to update the commission on this particular item?
Sure, through the chair. So this hearing opened at our last meeting on the 8th, but as the applicants hadn't notified abutters in Holliston, as this property's on the Hopkinton-Holliston border, we couldn't formally discuss anything. So since then, they have notified the one Holliston abutter that falls within the 300-foot radius. We have confirmation of mailing. We have a response to Lucas's review, and a couple of outstanding items for the commission to discuss. So you might want to start with the applicant giving an overview of the project, as the commission hasn't received that yet. And happy to bring up any outstanding comments afterwards.
Sounds good. Mr. Dean, would you like to give us an overview, please?
Yeah, sure. Good evening. My name is Mike Dean with DNL Design Group out of Milford, Mass. We're here representing Michael and Kathleen Culler of 17 Ledgestone. This is their house. The project consists of an existing single-family house shown kind of in the middle of that site plan there, which is the hatch area, the hatched rectangle there. That's the existing single-family house. The lot itself is a 65,362 square foot residential lot. Ledgestone Drive is located on the bottom of the plan, which is just out of your area there. So there's Ledgestone Drive there, located at the bottom, like I had mentioned. The existing single-family house shown in the hatched area, this subdivision and the lots were created in the late 80s, maybe like 1989 or so. The Cullers are the second owner of the property. The house itself is serviced by on-site septic and on-site well. Well's off onto the back right-hand corner of the lot, and the septic is directly located in front of the house. So towards the rear of the house, there's a border and vegetated wetland shown in the solid green. And the associated 25-foot parallel line and the 50-foot parallel lines are behind the house. And let's see. And the 100-foot buffer zone is shown in the solid yellow line. So there's the 100-foot buffer zone to the border and vegetated wetland, the green solid line. Also on this property is also associated with 200-foot riverfront. Up in the top left-hand corner, you'll see there's a solid blue, which is the mean annual high water mark. And then the 200-foot riverfront area is shown in the dashed yellow line. So there's the 200-foot riverfront there. Goes through the back left-hand corner of the existing house and portion of the driveway. That's the side entry driveway right to the left of the existing house. Also on the left-hand property line, in common with the property line, is a red solid line. And that indicates, or that shows highlights the existing 36-inch drain line that drains from the subdivision and the roadway and discharges right there where it's labeled the existing 36-inch outfall. The proposal itself consists of a small 556 square foot addition towards the back right-hand corner of the existing house and a new deck. This is all in the same general location of the existing deck, which is obviously going to be removed, and they're both just outside the 50-foot no-build zone. All the work and activity that is being proposed is taking place in a previously disturbed area. This is essentially their rear yard. Following the submittal, we received the peer review, and since it was continued, we've had time to address most of those items, I believe. Certainly go through those quickly. I'm not here to speak for Joe, but I'll just go through them quickly. We put some effort in revising the plan and resubmitting that to the commission. So following that submittal, we have adjusted the wetland line at one flag location that was in the review letter, flag number 3, which is then in bold wetland flag 3A, and in parentheses saying move. So we moved that 8 feet closer or up gradient. We've added a note to the plan for the removal of leaf and pine needle piles that are out in the rear yard, adjacent to and along the wetland border that is shown in the green. So we added that note to the plan. The existing 4-inch foundation drain was not shown on the original plan. We've added that. That just comes out in the back left-hand corner of the existing building and heads towards the wetland area, but it is a foundation drain. Construction access has been added to the plan. Judy, if you could just scroll down a little bit up off to the right. So there's a construction access, and this is chosen for a couple of reasons, off to the right-hand side, and that avoids coming off the end of the driveway, the existing driveway, back on the opposite side of the house, which is in the riverfront area. So we chose to take we chose this location to avoid the riverfront. Let's see. So stockpile area has also been added to the plan. That's off to the right of the house and to the left, kind of that curve area of the access construction roadway, and that is outside the buffer zone. And let's see, one of the revisions also was the erosion control from the original plan and the limit of work that's shown there with the line work and the X's. We've moved that in closer to the addition, and we also wrapped that right around at the 200-foot riverfront, keeping everything out of the riverfront and not accessing down through the end of the driveway. Also in the review letter, there were some other items that were listed as further discussion with the commission. So we have added, well, let's see. Another one is proposed medallions have been added to the plan, located at the 25-foot line. Those are the diamonds, and a note added to the plan as well, that those will be proposed medallions located on trees and finalized with the commission through the process. So those are, the note even gives the ability to adjust it. So a couple of other comments that in the peer review letter that suggests further conversations with the commission is, let's see, the lawn extends beneath the tree line, and further discussion should take place regarding the restoration of the 25-foot no disturb zone. Another item is 3 trees are being removed for the project. Those are shown on the plan off to the back right of the proposed addition. And we should have a conversation as to the mitigating or replanting those. I talked to, and I forgot to say that the applicants are online here. I'm sorry, the colors are online also. I discussed that with them, and they have no issues replanting the trees. However, I don't know who has been out to the site, but the site in the yard area, there's a fair amount of mature trees there. So, if we plant them, are they going to survive? Does it make sense? But they have no problem planting the trees. And then there was a question about the gutters, explaining what the plan is for the gutters from the addition. It is a 556 square foot addition. The plan was, the initial thoughts was to tie in the proposed gutters into the existing gutters and or to the existing downspouts. So there was a couple downspouts along the back of the house, but we can certainly further discuss that if that's not suffice. So with that, the project once again consists of a small 556 square foot addition. This is the Colors home. They've lived here for about 29 years. We have revised the plans to address most of the concerns or comments in the peer review letter. And with that, I turn it back over to the commission to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Appreciate the thorough presentation. That's welcomed by the commission. Joe, I'll kick it over to you if you have anything you'd like to add.
No, I think the applicant did a really good job of responding to all the comments. There was only one outstanding issue that I had initially regarding some missing data in one of the BW forms, but that were subsequently submitted, and all of my comments have been addressed. I think really the remaining items are the discussion items that I think I know.
Great. I appreciate that, Joe. So as you went through the presentation, Mr. Dean, there are a few items that popped out to me that we definitely want to discuss. One in particular, I'd just like to get some clarity on. You mentioned the existing foundation drain coming off of the single family home down towards the wetland. Do you know where the discharge point is for that?
It terminates just about at the wetland line. It is elevated a little bit. I mean, we could probably cut that back a little bit, and it's really not that active at all. It's been there since the original construction of the house, but I don't think you can terminate it much further back due to the grade, but that's where it discharges. Yeah. And it would be groundwater, and I talked to the Colors about it to discuss what it actually is, and it's really not active at all, but that terminates at the closely to the wetland. Yep.
Okay, thank you. One thing we've asked for in the past for these foundation drains, if there is not any stone at the discharge point, just placing some larger diameter stone, like 3 to 6 inch stone, just in the event there is discharge, it helps mitigate the opportunity for erosion, especially when it's that close to a wetland area. So I think that's something we'd like to see on the plan. The PIB locations, appreciate that they've been added. What we've as a commission done in the past is not just strictly followed a 25-foot no disturb area, but we've tried to pull those in as tight to the existing lawn or the existing disturbance on a property. So as they go, I guess if plan north, as they go to the east into that wood line, I think we would like to see those PIBs move closer to the edge of the tree line, just to inform that there is resource area beyond that. So closer to that 50-foot no build in that area, certainly for those three. The other two on the west side along the 25-foot look like they're pretty consistent with the limits of the tree line. So I think that's pretty fair of a location. And the last item was the mitigation for the tree removal. So it sounds like 3 trees are proposed to be removed. We've got some lawn area that encroaches on the 25-foot no disturb area. So from my perspective, I think the most logical place to do some mitigation would be in that 25-foot no disturb area, whether it be trees, shrubs, some alternate plantings. I think that as a commission, we've been pretty flexible as to what we were willing to accept with mitigation. But generally, we've looked for 2-to-1 for trees, and I think up to 4-to-1 for shrubs. So that's my 2 cents on it. I'll open up to the rest of the commission if they have any questions, comments, thoughts.
To the chair, this is Ed. I just want to compliment the drawing being color coded, especially when you're looking at these in a little monitor at home. It's really, really hard to pick some of this stuff up. So having it done that way is a really great asset. Thank you.
Thank you.
My only comment would have been what you covered, Matt, on the PIBs, having them brought closer to the existing lawn area rather than following the 20-foot. So that's it for me.
Great. Anyone else? Not hearing anything. Anyone in the public?
Is it Joe?
Yep.
Just a quick comment on potential mitigation plantings. So it's the area under the tree line there are quite a few trees out there. And it's almost like a park-like setting. There's a tree canopy and then lawn underneath it. So my suggestion would be, if mitigation plantings were discussed, that those focus more like on shrub plantings.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Add some diversity. Yep.
Yep.
Through the chair,
Oh, go ahead, Judy.
as long as we're already doing plan revisions, might be minor, but remove trees as needed. It might be better to specify that it's 3 trees, just so that's not to be interpreted as more than the 3 indicated here.
Yes, I can. Yes, I think I even put in my response letter that it is 3, and then I forgot to change that.
Okay.
That's the original note. My apologies. I can certainly change that.
Yeah, that's a great catch, Judy. So yeah, Mr. Dean, if you could just have remove 3 trees. And as noted or as depicted, that would be great.
Yep.
Just for additional clarity. Anyone from the public have any questions or comments? Not hearing any there either. Judy, are you okay if Mr. Dean reaches out to you about native planting options that we've typically used in a situation like this?
Yep. Yeah, I can share our list.
All right, great. So I think in terms of action items, we're looking at some updates to the PIB locations, the discharge point of the foundation drain, just calling out some stones there for energy dissipation, some proposed mitigation within that 25-foot no disturb zone to offset the removal of the 3 trees that are going to be noted as specifically for removal. And I think that covers the action items. I'll give one last call if commission members have any final thoughts before we make a motion to continue.
Matt, so in addition to the stones at the discharge point, do we want that pipe brought back a little bit? I know that was an offer made, if it's possible. Would that help?
Yeah, I think if it can be cut back a little bit to provide some space for the stones and some space between the wetland, that's a great option.
Sure.
Mr. Dean, I'll defer to you.
I'll take a closer look at that and determine if I can cut that back a little bit, or we can cut it back. Obviously, if we can't cut it back, we don't want to go in digging, and exposing more soil to cut something back. So I wasn't quite sure why you were asking me that. So I just answered, but certainly putting the riprap there. But I will evaluate it. If we can cut that back, we most certainly will, and we'll add the riprap.
Agreed. Yeah, if it's exposed, which some of these foundation drains are at the end, their last like 5-6 feet are exposed, and it can be cut back without substantial disturbance to the ground. I think that's a great option. If we're talking about digging up a pipe to cut it back, to me, that's not adding a whole lot of value because the stones are really just intended to dissipate some energy. So we want to keep whatever vegetation is established there established to the extent we can.
Agreed. Thank you.
All right, we'll entertain the motion to continue to our next hearing on May 13th. Does that work for you, Mr. Dean, in terms of turnaround time to update plans?
Yep.
Okay, great.
So moved.
So moved. So I'll second them.
All right, great. Roll call. Ed.
Aye.
Janine.
Aye.
Heather.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you, Mr. Dean. I appreciate your time.
Okay, yes, thank
See you
you.
on the 13th.
Yep, thanks for your time as well. Have a good night.
All right, moving on to our last item for the evening, continued hearing for Banyan Lane and 4 Linden Street, request for determination of applicability for a demolition of a single-family home and site work. Do we have a representative from the applicant on the line?
Hi, my name is Ron Stroso from Oxbow Associates, representing the applicant, and she's also on the call, Ms. Modi.
Judy, any updates on your end since the last time we saw this particular effort?
Yep. So through the chair, this hearing was opened on April 8th, but Joe had discovered an additional channel on the east side, the adjacent property on the east side of the lot, and the applicant chose to continue to investigate that additional resource area and get it mapped on the plan. I believe they've walked the site with Joe again to confirm this new resource area in the associated buffer zone. So Joe, I believe, has notes on the confirmation of that. So I can leave it to him to discuss the confirmation of the additional resource area. But that is the status of where we're at right now. And if you'd like an overview of the project, I think that would be another good place to start, as we didn't get that at the last hearing.
All right, that sounds good. Mr. Stroessel, if you don't mind giving us a quick overview of the proposal here.
Yeah, no problem. So Oxbow Associates visited the site in February and flagged the BVW associated with an intermittent stream on the north side of Linden Street. It was not flowing at the time that we flagged it, and it's unnamed and not on the USGS map. So we're confident it's an intermittent stream. The BVW is kind of located at the toe of the slope off the edge of the pavement there, and it flows from west to east and from left to right on your screen here. It goes into a head wall right at flag A5, and it continues to go east, and evidently flows out near flag B1 through a kind of buried culvert. It then flows into a very small pool, and then kind of turns the corner there into a vegetated swale that's in the existing lawn before flowing into another culvert that goes underneath the driveway of, I think that's 10 Linden Street, and then flows out the south side of Linden Street, which it apparently drains into the ground right there, and there's no BVW associated on the outfall. Kind of assuming that this is really kind of road drainage that's going into this ditch, and less actual flow that's coming from a higher resource area. Nevertheless, it was all flagged. The proposed project is to demolish the existing single-family home that's on the property that's existingly is already extending into buffer zone, and then construct a new single-family home that'll be constructed outside of buffer zone to both the A and the B wetlands. Construct a new septic system that is going to be located to the south of the house, further from the wetland, and remove parts of the driveway and make it a bit smaller. Ultimately, the project's going to result in about 465 square feet of impervious being removed from the buffer zone completely. And overall, there's going to be a net 370 square foot drop in impervious surface on the lot itself, mainly from the removal of that existing driveway and the existing house together. But the driveway portion is the larger impact there. Under the act and the bylaw, this is work outside of the work to revegetate an area that's existing impervious is exempt. And so this area that was the house that is extending into the buffer zone is going to be revegetated to lawn, and erosion control is proposed in the form of those silt socks that extend from the stone wall all the way along the west side of the property, and then follow the 100-foot buffer zone on the east side. That portion of the existing driveway on the east that's going to be removed, that's in buffer zone. We did respond to Joe's comment about moving the silt sock to encompass that area. So it will be, when it is pulled out, all the work will be surrounded by all the silt socks. And and the new driveway will go in. It's going to be a bit narrower than the existing driveway and extend outside the buffer zone. And we've added the construction entrance detail that's to the right of this plan, as requested by Joe in his most recent letter.
Thank you, Mr. Stroessel. Joe, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, we've had a couple of back and forth, and I think all of my comments have been addressed. I think the only outstanding point is for the commission to discuss whether or not PIBs are appropriate, possibly along the eastern buffer zone area. it's all pretty well heavily vegetated. The tree shrub line along the eastern part of the property is quite a dense mixture of invasive species. But no work is being proposed in that area. But no additional comments.
Great, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I think it would be a good idea to have some PIBs along that eastern tree line, just to alert the landowner that there is resource area and buffer zone beyond that wood line, so that lawn doesn't extend unintentionally into the wood line. Along the street side, I don't see any benefit on the western side. It looks like it's existing lawn today, and we have Linden Street between the property and the wetland. So from that perspective, I wouldn't necessarily think PIBs are appropriate there. One quick question, and forgive me if I'm misreading, the construction entrance line work makes it appear like it's larger than the existing curb cut and paved driveway. Is that indeed the case?
I just tried to move the screen.
All good.
It does seem to extend wider. I'm not really sure why that is.
Okay. Yeah,
I think it might just be to show that it's there.
Yeah, it could simply be that. From my perspective, it would be great to see that limited to the existing footprint of the driveway and not create unnecessary disturbance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think
Matt, it may just be an access issue in terms of truck traffic. They need to widen them the existing driveway. That's just what I'm thinking.
But if not necessary, yeah, I wouldn't want.
Yeah, no, it's not necessary. Make it as narrow as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think overall this is a strong proposal. It's great to see that this existing driveway is going to be converted back to vegetation. The house has been strategically placed outside the buffer zone. We certainly appreciate the thoughtfulness there. So I'll open it up to commission members if they have any questions, comments, or thoughts. Going once. All right, sounds like we're all good on that front. I would personally be comfortable moving forward with a negative determination with a condition that PIBs be placed at 40 feet on center along that eastern tree line at the 100-foot buffer zone line, with signatures by Judy or Anna.
If you're looking for a motion, I'll make that.
I'm happy to take a motion if we're ready.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Yeah, we'll do a quick roll call. Janine?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you, Mr. Stroessel. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much. Just a quick question. Do those PIBs, does they come directly from the commission? Can you buy them at, okay.
Yeah. You can, Judy or Anna will have some for you. They're free of charge.
Okay.
They can be picked up at the town offices.
Okay.
We're probably looking at somewhere between 6 and 8 on the existing tree line.
Okay, that sounds great.
And just as a point of clarity, the condition of showing those PIBs, we would appreciate if you could provide just an updated plan for the record that show those locations so we have it on file.
Okay. As an as-built, like after they've been placed?
No, as just an update to this plan.
Okay.
You could just depict them with like a solid black
circle, like the
or a
diamonds that they
similar
do,
to some of the other projects you've seen tonight.
Yep, that makes sense.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Judy, any public forum requests?
Nope.
All right, we've made it through. All of the heavy lifting was done by Ted, and I got to do a little cleanup work.
Great teamwork, man. Great teamwork.
Yeah,
You guys are great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything that they want to talk about tonight while we're here?
Well, you want to talk about fishing or the sun or something like that?
We did do some fishing on April vacation last week. Caught a whole bunch of fish down in Florida. It was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Well, I started fishing down here in North Carolina, but it's a little bit too windy and too much surf. But oh wait, it'll be a good day.
Well, hopefully better ahead.
Our fearless leader appears to be doing well. I'm not quite sure how public we can be, but everything I'm hearing is good.
Good. That's great to hear.
Thanks for that update.
Yes, the update is much appreciated. All right, I will. If no one else has anything else, I'll certainly entertain a motion to wrap it up for the night.
I'll make it.
Motion.
I'll second the motion.
Quick roll call. Janine?
Aye.
Heather?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Matt.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye.